back to his apartment, and I follow, thinking about how turning someone else's doorknob is such a small thing, but also such a creepy thing. It was worth a shot, Safer says, writing in his notebook, and now we know he doesn't bolt it, he just uses the slam lock. How can you tell? It's the way the knob wiggles. You get to know these things. Safer picks up the binoculars and looks through the window. Safer, I say. Yeah? What would you have done if the door hadn't been locked? He lowers the binoculars and looks at me. I would have made a note of it. It would have been an important fact. So you weren't about to walk in there, right? Into the guy's apartment? What do you think I am, an amateur? I would never just barge in without a plan, George. Planning is essential. That's why we observe habits, reactions, everything. This is what I've been trying to teach you. He turns back to the window and raises the binoculars. People are not so different from birds, you know. If you watch them long enough, you find out everything you need to know. Are the parrots back yet? I squint out the window toward the nest. Not yet. Give them a couple of... Candy, what do you want? Candy is standing just inside the living room, holding a piece of paper. Safer must have eyes on the back of his head. She ignores Safer and holds the paper out to me. I printed this out for you, she tells me. It's about umami. Remember the other night you told us about how there's this fifth taste? Anyway, it's kind of interesting. This guy in Japan was obsessed with the idea of discovering the fifth taste because he knew there had to be more than 4, but no one really believed him, or, cared, I guess. So he boiled down all the seaweed and got to this deep flavor that isn't sweet or salty or sour or bitter. It's some glutamate thing that they put in Chinese food. Anyway, that's the fifth taste. It's also in mushrooms. She thrusts the paper at me. Wow, I say, thanks. It's all in there, and by the way, umami means deliciousness, even though I don't remotely like mushrooms. I look down at the article and see that she has underlined most of the sentences. Thanks, I tell her again. She starts to walk away, then stops. It doesn't really make sense. Delicious totally depends on the person eating the food. I nod. Yeah, I've thought about that. Why don't we all like the same foods? Shouldn't we be sort of programmed to eat anything that's good for us and to spit out anything that's poison? You know, from evolution? Yeah, she says. Like, why do I hate orange? Obviously, if I was a cave woman and I found some orange trees, I should eat the oranges, right? Who knows when I would find food again? Yeah, I say. It's kind of funny to picture Candy as a cave woman wearing those pig slippers. I really do hate oranges, though. I can't even sit across from someone drinking orange juice. Weird. Safer's staring at us. What? Nothing, he says. George, weren't you about to ask me downstairs to help you look for that key? Not that it isn't fascinating about the oranges and the seaweed. 5 minutes later, Safer is standing in my kitchen with a knife in his hand. Remember, SOS is easy. 3 quick, 3 slow, 3 quick. Holding the knife by the wrong end, he uses the handle to beat the rhythm against the heating pipe that runs from the floor to the ceiling. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. Now you, he says, holding out the knife. Why SOS? I ask. I mean, I could just bang on the pipe, right? You'd know it was me. Banging on the pipe is sloppy. It can mean anything. It could be Mr. Gervais complaining about the heat. In May? Safer fixes me with one of his looks. Who's training who, George? I take the knife and give it a try. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. Harder, Safer says. Remember, I have to hear this upstairs. I can barely hear it standing right next to you. You still haven't figured out how to get in. Shouldn't that be number 1 on the agenda? Safer takes an American Express card out of his back pocket. This is how I'm getting in. You're going to pay someone to open the door? Don't be stupid, George. It's expired. Mr. X doesn't bolt his door, remember? For the slam lock, this is all I need. I just shove it in the crack between the door and the frame. He cuts through the air with the arm holding the card, and voila! You've done this before. I guess I finally know how Safer left me that note under my pillow. Safer looks at me scornfully. Of course. Maybe Safer has no conscience at all. I'm not sure we should do this, I say, because I'm sure we shouldn't do this. It's normal to be a little scared, George. I'm not scared, though it has crossed my mind that a person could go to jail for the kind of thing Safer's planning. Fine, I'll go in without a lookout, but if he finds me in there, he'll probably kill me. I just want you to know that. That's exactly why I'm telling you not to do it. I don't expect you to understand, because you just moved in. But something has been going on with this guy for a while. The visitors, the suitcases. What visitors? You don't even know if there were any visitors. He shakes his head. Spies don't speculate. I don't say anything. It's not as if you'll be exposed, he says. You'll be right here in your own apartment. Please, George. It would be nice not to go in there naked. Naked? Why would you be naked? He blows his cheeks out. Not actually naked. Naked means going in with no backup, no cover. I give up. I'll be your lookout this one time, and maybe you'll find out there's nothing going on at all. Maybe Mr. X isn't the murderer. He smiles. Remember, 3 quick, 3 slow, 3 quick. He stands up and shovels the credit card into his back pocket. See? It's not so scary, George. Not so scary at all. But it is scary. When? He smiles. Now, George. Try to keep up. Break and enter. 1. I think I'll leave my shoes here, Safer says. Do you mind? I don't want to track anything in, and I don't want to leave them by Mr. X's door. And if I have to leave in a hurry, I might forget them. And then he'd find them, and he'd start looking for a boy about my size, and it's fine. I say, leave them. He unties his sneakers and steps out of them. Okay, so it's three quick, 3 slow, 3 quick, I say. Got it. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, it means something is very wrong, Safer says. And what am I supposed to do then? Call the police, I guess. Are you serious? What if you wipe out in your socks on the bathroom floor up there, hit your head in the bathtub, and pass out? And then I call the police, and we have to explain what you were doing up there in the first place. We could both go to jail. He stares at me. Then he bends down, takes off his socks, and tosses them on top of his sneakers. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, call the police, because it means I have not slipped in the bathroom in my socks, and I am most likely in the vice-like grip of a raving lunatic, okay? I nod. Then he shakes my hand very formally and walks out the door. I rush over to the lobby cam and push the button. The lobby door flickers into view on the screen. I grip my butter knife. I have this pins and needles feeling in my legs, like it's me who's forcing open the door of a stranger's apartment, walking in, looking, touching. It's the same feeling I get when Dad and I fly kites at the Cape, as if holding onto the string means that part of me is up there, way too high. I watch the clock. Every 2 minutes the screen turns itself off, and I push the button to make the picture come back. Absolutely nothing happens for 6 minutes, except that I have pushed the view button 3 times. The pins and needles feeling is gone, and I wish I had brought a chair to sit on. Then, finally, there's some action. The moo cow kid comes into the lobby with his teenage babysitter, who's wearing a pair of headphones and fumbling in her backpack. For her keys, I'm guessing. The moo cow kid isn't spinning around or anything. He actually looks a little sad. I push the talk button on the intercom and say, knock knock. The teenager ignores me. Probably she can't even hear anything with those headphones on. But the moo cow kid's mouth falls open. He's looking all around. Who's there? He asks the ceiling. Interrupting kangaroo, I say. He breaks into this huge smile. Interrupting kangaroo who? Kangaroo! Kangaroo! I shout, because I have no idea what sound a kangaroo actually makes. The moo cow kid is cracking up. His babysitter has found her keys, and they walk through the door. Then the lobby is empty again. Having fun? I whirl around and there's Safer, leaning against the wall behind me with his arms crossed. It's a relief to know that you were worried about me, he says. I mean, I could be bleeding to death from a head wound in Mr. X's bathroom, and here you are, playing with the intercom. I glance at the clock. It's only been 7 minutes. You took off your socks. And you have been here telling knock-knock jokes to the whole building. Safer, do you really think that anyone who isn't us is standing around in front of their intercoms pressing the talk button? The number 1 rule of the lobby cam is silence. You never said that. I didn't think I had to. So how did he go? Did you figure out what the key is for? He shakes his head. I saw a couple of disturbing things up there, George. Very disturbing. Like what? Safer says he needs a minute. He wants to know if we have any potato chips, which we don't. He settles for a string cheese. I get him a glass of water, which he guzzles. Finally, he looks up at me. 1 word, George. Handsaw. Safer tells me. 1. Mr. X has a handsaw laid out on a newspaper on his dining room table, and it looks sharp. 2. He has all sorts of bleaching cleansers under his kitchen sink. 3. His bathtub is very clean. Too clean. And 4. Safer couldn't find anything that could be opened with a little gold key. He needs to go home and think. He takes a string cheese for the road and doesn't invite me to come with him. After he goes, I look up kangaroo on Wikipedia and find out that kangaroos don't make a particular sound. Mostly they just thump with their feet to communicate. I watch America's Funniest Home Videos until Dad gets home. We go to Yum Lee's. Dad and I have the usual. Tell me things, Dad says, just in case I'm in the mood to pour my heart out. Things, I say, cramming chicken and broccoli into my mouth. So he tells me about another big potential client he might get, who's a friend of the first big potential client. This is called word of mouth, and he says it's good news for our summer vacation. I saw Mom this afternoon, he tells me. She's a trooper, George. You know that about your mom, right? She's amazing. Really strong. Everything is going great over there. Good, I say. That's really good. Dad's fortune says, only a goofus locks his keys in his car twice in 1 week. He looks injured. I don't even have a car. Mine says, it's a cookie, Sherlock. We're almost home when I see Candy Pigeon and their parents walking from the other direction. Candy is carrying a pizza box. Everyone stops to say hi, and then we all walk into the lobby together. DeMarco's? I say to Candy, while the dads are introducing themselves. She nods. I was thinking that pizza must be umami. It's got tomatoes and Parmesan cheese, and it doesn't really fit any of the other categories. Definitely, I tell her. So where's Safer? Oh, this is for him. She raises the box. We ate at the restaurant. Pigeon says DeMarco's pizza has a half-life of 10 minutes. That's from chemistry, and it means he only eats it fresh out of the oven. So you're the famous George, Safer's dad says to me. I tell him I guess I am, and he makes a big deal out of shaking my hand. He's wearing a black polo shirt that has the word 6 cents embroidered on it. Nobody mentioned Safer. I wonder if he didn't go to DeMarco's because he's still mad at Pigeon. Maybe he's one of those people who holds a grudge forever. I watch some TV with Sir Ott while Dad goes up and down to the basement, doing late-night laundry. Mom calls while he's downstairs, and she sounds pretty tired. She says she could use a laugh and asks me to tell her about one of America's funniest home videos. So I tell her about the girl sticking the beans up her nose, and Mom cracks up, which is actually good to hear. But then she says one of the doctors just walked in and she has to hang up. When the laundry is dry, Dad sits next to me on the couch to fold, stacking everything on the coffee table in front of us. Dad's a very good folder. He can even make Mom's super puffy bathrobe into a nice, neat square. When he goes to the bathroom, I plant my face in it and inhale. But it doesn't smell like Mom. It just smells like clean laundry. Before bed, I stand over my desk and spell, "Kangaroos are quiet. Love me." Blue. When my eyes open in the morning, the first thing I do is sit up and look at the Scrabble tiles. Koalas love to sleep. I wonder if Mom just made that up. I go out to the living room and find Dad's laptop on the coffee table. According to the web, koalas sleep 18 to 22 hours a day. I lie back on the couch and look up at Surat. How does she know these things? I ask him. First period. Science. I'm walking toward table 6 when Dallas and Carter are suddenly on either side of me. You know, gorgeous, you really are SDP. Ignore. So darn pathetic. They laugh and walk away. Ignore. I slide into my seat. Bob is drawing. Why do you do that? He asks with his head down. Do what? Do nothing. It's like the hard G and the soft G, is what I want to tell Bob. The hard G goes to school and nothing can hurt him, and the soft G is the one who's talking to you right now, except he's only talking in my head. I used to know which one was the real me, but now I'm not so sure. Now it's like maybe there is no real me. Mr. Landau is asking for volunteers. He can't quite hide the surprise in his voice when he sees my arm up, and he calls me to the front. I'm surprised too, actually. The next thing I know, I'm sitting on a chair at the front of the room with my mouth open and a white paper reinforcement perched like a bullseye on the tip of my tongue. Mr. Landau dips a Q-tip into some blue water that he assures me is non-toxic and swabs my tongue with it. Then he gets out his digital camera, takes a close-up, and projects the picture onto the whiteboard, explaining to the class that we are looking at the blue tongue flesh protruding through the hole in the reinforcement that is still in my mouth, magnified 10,000 times. "Oh, George," Mr. Landau says, "you can spit that out now." I stagger back to table 6, where Bob English, who draws, is looking pretty sorry for me. He doodles something in his notebook and shoves it over. Above a mean-looking elf, he's drawn a thought bubble that says, "That sucks. Why did you raise your hand?" "You're the one who told me to do something," I whisper. He takes back his paper, scribbles, shoves it back over to me. "I meant about Dallas, you dork." I knew that, of course. I still have no idea why I raised my hand. Just to stop myself from thinking so much, maybe. Everyone stares at the gross blue bumps on my tongue. Mr. Landau is yelling over the retching noises. "You all have tongues that look like this," he shouts. "Those are the fungiform papillae." "It's a fungus?" Carter shrieks over the gagging. "No," Mr. Landau says. "The papillae house the taste buds. Let's count them." But it's useless. "Silence!" Mr. Landau booms. Everyone shuts up. Mr. Landau explains that not everyone has the same number of taste buds. Some people have more, and they're called super tasters, and some have an average number, and they are regular, and some have less. They're called non-tasters. He's painted my tongue blue so that we can easily count the number of whitish taste buds inside the circle of the reinforcement. The average number is 30. He counts out loud, and it turns out that I'm short a few taste buds. I have 26. I am officially below average. Thank you, Mr. Landau. "Now we know why Gorgeous loves school lunch," Carter Dixon says in the cafeteria. "He can't taste it." He bumps his tray into my ribs. "He probably eats dog food for dinner," Dallas Llewellyn says, mouth wide open and full of chewed bagel. "The taste test is coming up, G. You know what I call it? The G test. You know why? Because it's going to tell us what we already know, that you're not normal. You're the biggest geek sack in the 7th grade. You're like a big phlegmy wad of geek, Gorgeous. Did you know that about yourself?" Mandy frowns at her bagel. "That's not really what the taste test is about, Dallas. It's love or death, remember?" "Not this year," Dallas tells her. "This year, it's about who's the biggest steaming pile of spaz." She looks him in the eye. "Maybe it's not up to you. You ever think of that?" Dallas wrinkles his nose like he smells something. "Maybe it is up to me. And maybe I say that you're not going to marry Gabe after all. Maybe Gabe actually thinks you're kind of gross. You ever think of that?" Mandy walks away saying, "Blah, blah, blah, whatever." But her face is all red, and I almost feel sorry for her. Dallas turns to me. "You know what? I bet the taste test is going to prove that you're the only freak in the class. You can't even taste stuff. Think about what a colossal freak that makes you." Lunch is macaroni and cheese, crusty on top the way I like it. Last period, gym. It's Friday again, so Miss Warner and I do our high five. The whiteboard says, "Capture the flag!" Normally I don't mind, "Capture the flag!" because it's pretty easy to fly under the radar. I run around the edges of the game, I get a little exercise, and I don't attempt anything stupid. But Miss Warner has decided today I will be a captain. "G is a captain of the blue team," she announces, and everybody groans. She's just trying to be nice, of course, but I'm disappointed in her. I thought she knew me better than this. Because being a captain is exactly the kind of thing I could never care about. She looks at me. "Come on, G. Blue team. Step up." So I walk up to her and she smiles. "Blue tongue team," Dallas says, and Mandy laughs. I guess she and Dallas made up. "And Mandy is the captain of the red team," Ms. Warner says. Mandy claps, jumps up and down, and hugs a few of her friends as if she's just been crowned prom queen in a bad TV movie. She runs up to stand on the other side of Ms. Warner. The rest of the class lines up against the wall. Now I will have to pick my team, and I have to be careful, because if a kid is picked last, it can absolutely destroy his or her self-confidence. I decided that the best thing to do is to choose the kids who are normally picked last first. I know exactly who they are. Everyone in the room knows who they are. Mandy looks more and more confused as I make my way through the smallest, least athletic, most officially uncool kids in the class. Ms. Warner is giving me knowing looks. If we could talk, I would remind her that I never asked to be captain, and that my goals as captain are probably different from most people's. And I'm having fun, I realize. I let my team members pick code names. Joanna is Spike. Carl and Carl are Smoke and Fire. Bob English, who draws, is Squid. Kevin is Shark Attack. Natasha Khan is Mist. David Rosen is Stingray. Eliza Dunnan is Laser. Chad, Anita, and Paul are Thing 1, Thing 2, and Thing 3. And I am Mask. This eats a couple of minutes. Mandy is complaining to Miss Warner that we aren't taking the game seriously, but Miss Warner doesn't rush us. Everyone on Mandy's team looks competitive and grouchy. We play. Most of us get our flags pulled and land in jail, and the rest of us plot elaborate rescue missions. Whenever we get a jailbreak, Paul, aka Thing 3, streaks around the gym with both arms up, yelling, "Blue team, it's what's for breakfast!" Anita, aka Thing 2, explains that this means Paul is having a good time. We ignore the red team's flag. We've hidden our flag really well. Carl, aka Smoke, had the idea of tucking it around the baseball hoop. Smoke is tall. Carter Dixon and Dallas Llewellyn are getting angry. Mandy complains that our flag is nowhere. Ms. Warner assures her that it is somewhere. "Well, I'm not going through anyone's pants or anything," Mandy says. Ms. Warner tells Mandy that our flag is in plain view. I think of my fortune from Yelton Lee's. "Why don't you look up once in a while? Is something wrong with your neck?" I'm laughing when the bell goes off. Even though most of my team is incarcerated, it's officially a tie because they never found our flag. I'm walking out the door when Ms. Warner calls out, "Happy weekend, G. See you on the dark side of Sunday." Get it? The dark side of Sunday? Monday. "Hi, G," Carter Dixon says to me at Benny's after school. I've already made my selection, which is peanut M&Ms, otherwise known as one of the world's perfect foods, and I'm waiting for Benny to take my money and count my change back to me. "Yeah, G. Good game today," Dallas Llewellyn says. He drapes an arm over my shoulder. "G as in gorgeous," Carter says. "G as in geek," Dallas says. "D as in definitely," Carter says. "D as in Dallas," I point out, trying to be helpful. "Soon you guys will know the whole alphabet." Dallas can move pretty quickly. He has me up against the potato chip rack faster than you can say sour cream and onion. I feel the chips against my back, and I'm thinking that 1,000 bags of potato chips wouldn't be the worst way to break a fall. "You!" Benny shouts, pointing 2 fingers at Carter and Dallas. "Out!" He grabs an open bag of Doritos out of Carter's hand and shakes it in his face. "Out!" Even the high school kids in our neighborhood know better than to mess with Benny. He learned to fight when he was growing up in Cairo. He says they don't fool around over there. When Dallas and Carter are gone, Benny whirls on me. "You're fighting? Since when?" I shrug. "I'll tell you something," Benny says. "That kid, Dallas. Yeah. His real name is David." I laugh. "I know. He changed it in 3rd grade. Benny shakes his head. "What's wrong with the name David? Perfectly good name. 75 cents for the M&Ms. I give him $1 and he counts back my change. A nickel is 80, a dime is 90, and another dime makes $1. He'll never just hand you a quarter. At home, there's a note under my door. Yellow paper, folded into fourths. Departed with suitcase, 12:45 p.m. Report to Uncle ASAP. I barely had time to read it when the phone starts ringing. I pick it up and say, "I'm on my way." On your way where?" a voice asks. "Bob?" "Yeah." "Hey, I thought you were someone else." "I've been thinking." "About what?" I'm hoping it isn't more creative spelling. "About the taste test." "Oh. The thing is, no one really knows what you can or can't taste, right? So even if you don't taste something, you can still act like you do. You know what I mean?" "Yeah, I guess. He means I can pretend. I may be a non-taster, but when Mr. Landau hands out those chemical papers and tells us to put them in our mouths, I can run for water like everyone else. I don't have to be the freak." "Just in case," Bob says. Candy answers the door in a dress and her pink slippers. "Is Safer home?" I ask. "Safer's always home." "Don't be a pain, Candy," Safer's voice right behind her. "I'm here babysitting. Guess who the baby is? Go away, I need to talk to George." "About what?" "None of your business. Just go back to whatever you were doing, okay?" "What do you mean whatever I was doing? You left me there watching for the Paris. I fell asleep. And you owe me $1. What time is it anyway?" "Time for you to go away." "What about my $1? "Take the $1. You know where my dog walking money is. Jeesh. Jeesh yourself." She walks down the hallway. "What took you so long?" Safer asks, but he doesn't wait for an answer. Mr. X stayed in his apartment all morning, and then he left with one of the big suitcases. I caught him on the lobby cam. I don't remind him that I still haven't even seen Mr. X, let alone familiarize myself with his luggage. You think he went away somewhere? On a trip? Can't say for sure, but it's an opportunity. I'm going back in. Back in? I repeat. Only first we have to make a list. A list, I repeat. Yes, George, a list of everything that can possibly be opened with a key. What about a desk drawer, I say, when we're settled in our beanbags. Or a briefcase. Desk drawer, Safer says, writing in his notebook. Briefcase. Or maybe a cabinet, I say. Some old cabinets have little keys like that. Did you see anything old looking in his apartment? Once my dad showed me this desk at an antique store that had a secret drawer behind this panel. Safer looks up and stares at me. This is an area of strength for you, George. Not really, I've just been dragged to a lot of antique stores. He smiles. Still, you're thinking like a spy. It's progress. Which makes me feel good, actually. Like I'm possibly getting better at something. And then, as if he can read my mind, Safer says, "You're not a novice anymore, George. Is novice on your famous vocabulary list?" I know what novice means. Good. Then you know what it means to be done with novice work. I'm not sure I like where this is going. So what's after novice work? Safer gives me a serious look. Night work.